Hey everyone, today I'm gonna show you how I painted the Shrine Anchorite from the tabletop wargame Trench Crusade. In my last video I showed how I customized this character to better fit the lore. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend checking it out. But now it's finally time for some paint. My goal was to paint it as well as I could without it taking forever. I kept the model in separate pieces to reach every spot and focus on the details without any hard-to-reach areas. The very first step was degreasing the parts with rubbing alcohol, followed by priming. As usual, I started with the base. For the stone, I used a standard mix of grays, from dark to nearly white. I also added some light yellow tints to break up the boring gray and make it look more realistic. Over time, I'll add other shades to make the final look more complex. I wanted the ground to look wet, which means darker colors. I used a dark brown wash over the earth tones and added small highlights. Later, a satin varnish will give it a nice damp shine. I also used blood effects to add to the dark atmosphere. The bricks were painted a classic brick red. To tone down the bright color, I used the dark brown Tamiya panel liner. Once it was dry, I used a flat brush to do a light dry brush with orange on the rims. The skulls were painted in 3 simple steps: base, color, shading, highlight. Since they aren't the main focus, this was plenty. To make it look more natural, I added a transparent green varnish to create moss on the stone slab, the rocks and the column. This works with the satin varnish to create a real wet mud effect. After finishing the base, it felt more medieval than Great War. To fix this, I added 3 modern elements: a shell casing made from a sprue, a gear and an old metal barrel. I left the spots for the feet unpainted for a better glue bond. To the bottom I added black velvet. My advice: don't use black velvet. Every tiny speck of dust shows up like a bright star on a dark night. According to the lore, the head is made of the same material as the body, but I chose to paint the head in stone colors. To me it feels more like a small shrine built on top of a war machine. For the roof I used bright bronze, shaded it with black oil paint and added the green patina. The shield with mother on it was painted traditionally. It just takes a bit of care and focus. For the main parts I used Iron Warriors paint from Citadel and Golden Bronze for the decorations. To treat the metal I used a black panel liner on the mechanical parts and a dark brown shade on the armor to mimic cast iron. Next up I added patina, red, black and brown for the cast iron and bright green for the bronze. I use a simple micro stippling technique which takes patience. The most important thing is not to make the red patina too bright. This was also one of my few attempts at the technique known as object source lighting. I've done this before, but I'm still gaining experience, so I didn't want to overcomplicate things or push myself too far. I used shades from dark red all the way to fluorescent scarlet. The main thing is not to overdo the glow, it's better to do little than too much. Next, it's all pretty obvious, there is nothing to comment on here, you can see everything on the screen. When I was 90% finished, I found that the column on the base was blocking the left arm. I'm not sure how it happened, as the dry fit was fine. I must have made a mistake with the leg position at the start. I tried to cut away as little as possible, but in the end I had to remove almost the entire column. Once everything was assembled and varnished, I spent about 5 hours just on the blood effects. I'm still a bit picky about some spots, but it's done. And here we are, the final result. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. I have one more idea for this guy. Take care.